Good afternoon, everyone. We're getting ready to start our recognitions for tonight's meeting. So just a reminder, and for all of those of you that haven't been here yet, the way that this recognitions will work tonight is we'll have our cabinet members and our board members stand in front right here. And when I call your group, some we have by name, some we have by groups. Just when you hear your group and your name being called out, just come up. You'll come up this way. You'll shake their hands, and then you'll stay there so we can take a picture of you, and then you can exit this way. Okay, thank you. Okay, we're gonna start with our first recognition for tonight's board meeting. We would like to recognize our Harlandale High School choir. They made the UIL All Region Choir, and the students are Alfie Barcenes, Anthony Espinosa, Ricardo Lerma, Diana Salazar, Emily Plotch, and Dominic Ramirez. And I think we have one representative from their choir. We also have the Harmel High School Choir Varsity Treble Choir who got straight ones in sight reading, and also their tenor bass choir who got sweepstakes in UIL for concert and sight reading. We also have the McCollum High School Choir who got superior rating in UIL concert. Our esports team from McCollum High School, they won the top prize in a league hosted by the San Antonio Museum of Science and Technology at the Boeing Port Tech Center R20 Championship this past weekend. And the winners were Jason Preciado, Jairo Castro, Ricky de la Garza, and Angel Lambern Carvajal. We want to recognize Andres Ramirez. He is the Darren Walker Scholarship recipient. Andres is one of 3 Texas students receiving this full ride scholarship to the University of Texas at Austin. He plans to join. He plans to join the Air Force ROTC program to commission as an officer in the military. Andres wants to major in astronomy and work for NASA. And from Leal Middle School, we have Marco Longoria from the Special Olympics of Texas Area 20 Spring Games. Marco participated in the Special Olympics of Texas Area 20 Spring Games held at Steele High School, and he was the sole representative from Carlindale ISD. His outstanding performance has qualified him to compete in the Special Olympics of Texas Summer Games scheduled to be held on May 16th to 19th at Heroes Stadium. At this event, Marco will be competing with athletes from all over the state of Texas. And now we will call up our McCollum High School Skills USA participants and the ones that qualified for state. Catalina Ferniz, Nick Hawkins, Dalen Garcia, Valeria Garza, Gage Smith, Aaron Martinez, David Bright, Michaela Castilleja, Drayson Sanchez, Tristan Martinez, Steven Minko, Lorena Villalpaldo, Aiden Lalinde, and Ethan Aguilar. And we have two more, Marisa Alvarez and Fabian Garza as well. Congratulations. Our next group is Carlo High School, also Skills USA state qualifiers. Delilah Gonzalez, Angel Nolasco, Paulina Ray, Liana Terrazas, Adrian Valdez, Ruben Abundis, Isaiah Davila, Jocelyn Lopez, and Andrew Mejia. And as you know, this past weekend we had our cultural arts fair. So we have the announcement of our parade winners. We had 3 judges who said they had a really hard time picking a winner because everybody did a wonderful job. But we're going to start by recognizing Ariana Bustillo Palacios, who was the Name the Theme winner, and Audrey Escareno, who was the program cover design winner. And for best walking group, Gilbert Elementary Safety Patrols. All right, congratulations. For our best float, we have Schultz Elementary. Best Spirit Group, Harlandale High School Spirits. Best Middle School Band, Terrell Wells Middle School. Best High School Band, McCollum High School. And last but not least, Best Vehicle, Vestal Elementary Administration. And now we're going to recognize our employees, campuses, and departments that raise the most money for our HEF Employee Fund Drive. We raised a total of $134,738.40 this year. Our top elementary was Gilbert Elementary, and they raised $4,860.45. Our top middle school, Highlandale Middle School, raised $6,516.04. Our top traditional high school, they almost raised $10,000. McCollum High School with $9,823.96. Our top non-traditional high school, Frank Tejeda, with $1,000 for 169. Our top large department, curriculum and instruction, with $1,000, 672. Our top medium department was finance, which is payroll, business office, and fiscal services, and they raised $1,210. And our top small department was the superintendent's office with $650. Thank you to everybody that contributed to the HEF Employee Fund Drive. Remember that these are for our student scholarships. That concludes our recognitions for this evening. Thank you.
All right, everyone, 1 minute warning, 1 minute warning. All right, guys, if everyone can join us at the dais, please. All right, so prior to us starting the meeting, we're gonna have Ms. Trevino and our Schultz students here to go ahead and do the thought of the day and the Pledge of Allegiance. So, Ms. Trevino, and whenever you're ready, ma'am, please proceed. And congratulations again to the float.
My name is Victoria Trevino, and I'm the proud principal here at Schultz Elementary. Today, we have two fourth grade students reciting the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge. We have Savannah Gonzalez and Camila Abuniz.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, in liberty and justice for all. Honra la bandera de Texas. Te juro lealtad a ti, Texas, un estado bajo Dios, único e indivisible.
The thought of the day. Kindness in words creates confidence. Kindness in thinking creates profoundness. Kindness in giving creates love. Lao Tzu.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mr. Trevino. Thank you to your kiddos. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order. It's now 6:17. We're here at Schultz Elementary within Harlandale ISD on April 15, 2024. Meeting called to order by myself. We're gonna go ahead and call for roll call before we go forward. All right, and we all have our clickers here. And looks like the voting is open. All right, it is now on. All right, we can close voting. All right, we do declare a quorum present. Everyone is here. We also like to introduce Dr. Casaberti that's here with us as well, conservator. Welcome him. Moving on to item C, and prior to acknowledging our superintendent, he is out with a positive thing with his daughter doing very well in a competitive league right now. So, but he'll be back shortly. But Mr. Hernandez is here in his place. So Mr. Hernandez is going to be our acting presider of superintendent. So Mr. Hernandez, if you can let us know the staff members present, please.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I'd like to introduce then our incoming Assistant Superintendent of Finance, David Flores, here. Our Executive Director of Operations, Dr. Juan Hinojosa, here. Our Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction, Melissa Casey.
Here.
Our Executive Director of Human Resources, Dr. Melinda Salinas.
Here.
And our Public Information Officer, Mariana Veraza.
Here.
Thank you, sir. So moving on to public comments, and we do have a couple of students here that are going to be addressing the board. Please, I apologize in advance if I do pronounce the name incorrectly, but if we can have Miss Letty Arguete come on first to us here at the podium. Keep in mind, we will have the time frame there for you. 3 minutes are allotted for you. And whenever you're ready, please proceed, Miss Letty.
Sorry, good evening. My name is Letty Argueta. I'm a proud alumni of Harlandale High School, graduating class of 1991. I'm currently a senior at Trinity University, pursuing sociology. In our class, we read a book called The Labor of Lunch. Why we need real food and real jobs in American public schools. The Labor of Lunch was written by Jennifer E. Gaddis. She represents the idea that offers political solutions to the significant issues in our current school lunch program. This system has often prioritized low prices and cost savings over fair labor prices, sustainability, and food quality. Today, I'm here to use my voice to advocate for creating investments in scratch cooking, local sourcing, and higher quality for jobs for school lunch cafeteria workers. If you've been inside different schools, whether it's a student, parent, staff, you mostly have notices the difference in school lunch programs. They provide various districts. They're provided in various districts. Some schools have beautifully bright cafeterias, and kids are often offered fresh salad bars and organic fruit. Other students have drab cafeterias, peeling paint, exhausted and overworked cafeteria staff, with feeding lunch to students that consist of cold sandwiches on their tray. This class has prompted me to think about my experience when I was a student. I reflect back on those days at Leal Middle School when the cafeteria employees who truly cared about their kids and they served lunch with no more than just a meal. They created a safe, comforting environment. These lunch ladies were often familiar faces, known as their warmth and kindness as they served up hearty meals with the side of friendly conversations. The food service was not just sustenance. It was a reflection of the care and effort put in by the lunch staff to ensure I felt valued and well fed. The relationship formed between students and lunch ladies were beyond just serving food. They were bonds built on trust, respect, and a shared sense of belonging. These connections made from the school cafeteria not only a place to eat, but a place where I felt supported and understood, contributing to positive and nourishing school environments. Cafeteria employees nationwide deeply care about the students they serve. Despite the genuine concern for the students in their schools, these employees lack the necessary support in terms of hours, resources, and pay to effectively fulfill their responsibilities. There is this notion that genuine change hinges on schools adopting a new economy of care. This means implementing universal free lunches, offering nutritious, healthy meals, fitting to all kids, while improving wages and working conditions for the millions of low-wage workers across the food chain involved in school lunch programs. So basically, good nutrition for kids and the ability to pay for their bills and feed their own families for cafeteria employees. Like many aspects of American education, our nation's school lunch program needs a major overhaul. Even if we explore these challenges, the question still persists. Why do we need real food and real jobs in American public schools? Two primary issues prevalent in many schools are inadequate nutrition and the flight for understaffed cafeteria workers. This is a significant challenge in American school lunches by the overwhelming presence of big food companies who have replaced cafeteria workers with cheap, pre-cooked foods loaded with industrial fillers. However, opting out for the cheap way to go, the impact is felt everywhere. I end with this quote from her book. Cheap isn't just a synonym for low costs. It's the guiding political and economic philosophy, business strategy, and consumer expectation that shapes our everyday lives. One that has disastrous effects on the healthful of school lunches and the wider world. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We're going to go ahead and proceed with Ms. Harper Horn. And please be mindful, guys, of the 3 minutes. You're welcome to join us, ma'am.
Hello, good evening, and thank you for your time. My name is Harper Hornclegg, and I'd like to start by acknowledging that have not been in your schools, I've not eaten your food, I've not lived in your neighborhoods. I'm from Houston, a student from a different HISD, and now I'm a college student and community member who respectfully comes to you today. I would like to address an issue that we have often overlooked when we think of student well-being, food. Because food is the nourishment of the physical and mental health of students, we are here to advocate for healthy foods in Harlandale, as well as an increased valuing of the labor that goes into providing these meals. The work of cafeteria workers has been historically devalued due to its connection to domestic labor or unpaid women's work. Underneath the 2023 to 2028 district strategic plan, goals of positive culture, human capital systems, high quality curriculum, instructional materials and assessments, or finance, mentions of cost cutting and increased assessment are in the forefront, while there is no mention of increases to food quality. While fully acknowledging the challenges of budget constraints and economic fluctuations, moving forward, continuing to prioritize the nutritional needs of students and fostering a culture of healthy eating within the school community can ensure that every student has the opportunity to thrive physically, mentally, and academically. While acknowledging efforts to evolve the food provided within the district, mobile food pantries, programming, and community input through surveys, taste tests, and advisory committees like we discussed, we encourage you to consider the importance of continuing to improve the food you care for students with. Good food nourishes community. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, ma'am. And our last speaker, Miss Isabel Sanders.
Hello, my name is Isabel Sanders, and I am a community member in San Antonio. I graduated from high school not too long ago, and while I graduated from a different district, I can say that there is a clear divide between students who ate these school lunches and students who did not. If someone had the option to not eat school lunches, they did so. The menu is mostly frozen, including the vegetables that were served, and if students were excited about lunch, it wasn't because of the food, but because they didn't have to be in class. This has given me the belief that students deserve real food, not lunches that are largely frozen meals. Because of this, I would like to commend Harlandale ISD for making strides towards nutritious meals with fresh vegetables for students. I would also like to take this moment to acknowledge the crucial role that lunch workers have in all Harlandale ISD schools. Lunch workers deserve respect and acknowledgement as well. The real food movement, which emphasizes from-scratch cooking in public schools, is growing across many school districts, including districts in Boulder, Colorado, and recently Texas's very own Brownsville ISD. These districts have done work to further provide nutritious meals, all 100% cooked by their lunch staff. I think that these are districts to watch when it comes to school lunch, especially Brownsville ISD. I believe that important lessons could be learned from looking at how these districts have further innovated providing meals for their students. Additionally, food service workers at schools serve a very important role in building relationships with students and caring for them. Their role in schools should be respected and acknowledged. I understand that the district is limited by budgetary concerns and has also made considerable progress in these areas, but I hope you take these statements into consideration, as well as the book, The Labor of Lunch, which was mentioned at the beginning of this public comment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to the next piece, which I believe is announcements, Miss Mariana. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. There we go. This evening, I would like to introduce Ms. Maddie Pozos. She's our student ambassador for the UP partnership from Harlandale High School, and she has a few words to share with us.
Good evening. My name is Madeline Pozos. I am currently a senior at Harlandale High School and the student ambassador for Harlandale ISD in the Future Ready Bexar County Initiative for UP Partnership San Antonio. In my participation in this initiative since March of 2023, I have seen committed partners work together to unify resources to reach the goal of increasing the percentage of Bexar County high school graduates enrolling in post-secondary degrees and credential training to 70% by 2030. My role as student ambassador is to be an equal voice for students in Bexar County. I have been able to share my perspective on the barriers that students face seeking post-secondary education or credential training. Throughout my involvement, it is inspiring to see the adults in my community actively engaging student voices as a way to solve the issues that are affecting them. At the board's request, I would love to speak further on the specific actions we can take as a district to help reach this goal for Bexar County. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I do have some important dates to share. April 29th is going to be a very busy day. We have the TIA award ceremony at 9:30 a.m. at McCollum High School Auditorium. We also have that same day the substitute appreciation luncheon at 2 p.m. at Harlandale High School. And then right after that, we will have our retirement and years of service ceremony at 4:30 also at Harlandale High School. On May 7th, we are going to have our Teacher of the Year breakfast. The time and place will be announced later. We will let you know. We're just finalizing some details. And then, of course, graduations will take place May 30th and May 31st at our stadium. And at this time, I would like to introduce Dr. Salinas. She's our Executive Director of Human Resources, and she has an announcement for us as well.
Miss,
Good eve-
Dr. Solis, I'm sorry, Miss Ortiz, you had a question in relations to Miss Mariana?
Yes, she made an announcement about the TIA ceremony that they're going to be having on the 29th. Do we know if the individuals that are eligible for those awards are going to be allowed to leave their campuses and be there?
Yes, and it's a planning day. We don't have students that day, so we have let them know, and they are more than welcome to come.
Thank you. Good evening, School Board, Cabinet. Tonight, I'd like to share with you some information that is coming soon. So we have not announced this to our staff yet, but I would like to talk to you a little bit about WageStream. In our effort to recruit more staff, and more importantly, to retain the staff we have, we're excited to introduce a new employee benefit. It's called WageStream. WageStream is a holistic financial well-being app that's going to allow our employees to choose their own pay cycle, track their wages and help them manage their budget, and build a savings fund. It's all in one app with no change to payroll and no impact to our fund balance. This app has proven organizational impact, driving up to 16% reduction in staff turnover and encouraging employees to work up to 11% more hours per week, meaning it helps with attendance. We are excited for everyone to get behind this benefit. Employees can access their own pay when they want it, as they earn it through WageStream. There's no loans, there's no interest, and it's very simple, secure, and reliable access to your money. It's entirely employee directed, meaning that employees can opt in or choose not to opt in. They can opt in and then choose to opt out if they want to. Again, there's no impact to the district payroll or cash flow. It makes work more rewarding for 3 million people, making it the world's most widely used financial well-being platform. Once rolled out, we will be a flexible pay employer that offers WageStream. To my knowledge, we would be the first district in San Antonio in Bexar County that would offer this to all of their employees. Right now, a lot of districts are using it only for substitutes. The Money Management app gives you access to a toolkit of services built around your pay. It can help the employee to use flexible pay to choose when they get paid throughout the month. They track their earnings and spending in one place. They build a rainy day pot to reduce financial stress and reward themselves in the future. And they have insights with articles and a newsletter to help build better financial habits with your money. One of the questions I asked was, is it in Spanish and English? Yes. Once you download the app, you can toggle between English or Spanish. 90% of the users reported their financial situation has improved with WageStream. 86% of users reported a reduction in payday loans with WageStream. 77% of users use WageStream when they have to pay a bill or make an essential purchase. And 70% of users reported a better ability to financially plan. The school board was given the executive summary, so you have a lot more detail in front of you. I did provide that for you, and as you know, you can always ask questions. And the rollout is expected to be very soon, May of 2024. We have been meeting with WageStream. When I say we, I mean the IS department, the payroll department. Mr. Flores has been on those meetings, and Human Resources. I will entertain any questions you have or comments.
Yes, Ms. Weiss?
Dr. Salinas, I just want to thank you for helping to bring this into the district. I know that we learned about this in our most recent governance camp session. So, to be able to bring this opportunity in for our employees and not just substitutes, but every employee in the district. I mean, it's only going to be beneficial for everyone. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Cavazos?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Dr. Salinas, I'm going to say ditto to what my colleague just said. I have not had a chance to look at it, so I will be sending, if I have questions and just want a little bit more detail, not to be against it, but to maybe tell my employer to look into it.
Yes.
So I will be emailing you through Mr. Soto. So thank you so much.
Perfect. And I can just explain. So let's say I'm a substitute and I work today and my pay for today is $100. If I had chosen to get into the WageStream app, I would today have access to $40. May not sound like a lot, but by Friday, I would then have access to 40 times 5, $200. Now, when it's payday time, right, my paycheck's going to be $200 short because I've already been collecting my money. Okay, but you're only allowed access to 40% of your earned wages for that day. That includes our hourly employees, our classified employees. That also includes our professional employees.
One more question, if I may. What I really like is that savings that you can start putting in for a rainy day. I know we all do, but doesn't hurt to have an extra little pot just in case. So thank you.
Correct.
I'm
Perfect
going to
point.
I'm going to reach out to you through Mr. Soto because I have questions that I want to relate to my employer about that. So thank
Sure,
you.
yes. And the savings account is free and there's no minimum balance. The only time an employee would have to pay, it's very similar to Venmo or Cash App. If you want an instant transfer, then it would cost you about $3 for that transfer. Otherwise, it happens the very next business day, unless it's in your savings account and you can get that on Saturday or Sunday for an IOSA, for whatever you want to go to. We're hoping it's rolled out. Well, it may not be rolled out for Fiesta, but for the summer, yes.
All right. Any other comments, concerns, clarification needed on this piece? No, well, thank you, Dr. Salinas, for
Thank you.
providing that clarification because that was something I would have asked.
And
So
we are
thank you.
anticipating that once it gets out, more people are going to want to sign up. We will take enrollments the first of every month. So if people don't sign up in May because they're like, I don't know what it is, don't worry, they can sign up in June. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, so moving on to the next piece. Is that still Ms. Mariana? Okay.
Before,
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Ortiz?
I think I would be remiss if we didn't thank Miss Mariana and her team for the exceptional work that y'all did on Saturday. Not only preparing for Saturday, but I know y'all were there at 5:30 in the morning and y'all were probably there till 5:30 in the evening. And kudos to you and your team. Exceptional service that day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. And I'm sure our team echoes that as well. So thank you. Moving on to item 5, information and reports. Item 5A, student outcomes, GPM 6.1, 7.1, 8.1, 9.1, and 10.1, progress towards secondary STAR goals. So I guess at this point, Mr. Hernandez, would it be to Ms. Casey?
Yes, sir.
All right, Ms. Casey, please.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the board. Today, we have our secondary coordinators. There are content coordinators who will be presenting to you student outcome goals in all content areas, secondary content areas. We have Matthew Simons representing science, Rabina Pantoja for social studies, David Castro for math, and Justin Pozos for ELA.
Good evening, and thank you guys for having us here. My name is Matt Simons. I am the science coordinator for the district, and I will be beginning our presentation. As with our last presentation a while back, we have our STAR goals, our data projections, and our goal progress measures. This time we will be reporting back on the progress made at benchmarks. For science specifically, our 8th grade and biology scores, we were expecting or wanting them to increase this year by an average of 1.5% per performance level. That is because there is a difference between the two content areas as far as how much they need to grow. Here are our past couple years as well as our goal for this year with regard to 8th grade science by an average of 2% per performance level with the goal of equaling the state level of performance in all the categories. So going from last year's 66 to a 69% for approaches, all the way down to raising our overall performance, which is an average of the other three, to 38%. Similarly for this one is for biology. This is a smaller gain, although it will be its own challenge. Going from 84 to 85%, and then in approaches, 45 to 46 in meets, and then 12 to 14% in masters, with that 1% gain overall for biology. And to track this, this year we used our benchmark scores. And towards that end, for the 8th grade science assessment, you can see the district performance on approaches, meets, masters, and overall. In all cases, we exceeded our goals. With the changes made by STAR 2.0, it'll still difficult to tell whether these numbers represent as substantial of a gain as it appears, but they are overall positive. And then you can see the individual campus breakdowns. Moving on to the subgroups for 8th grade science, you'll see our emergent bilingual group and our special education group. Still aiming at the same cutoffs. I believe, right? Yes. While not as high, they are still quite positive given the groups and encouraging in and of themselves. With regard to the biology district benchmark performance, we also exceeded all of the indicators and all of the categories. This is also positive. I would be extremely happy if we truly do get this high of a master's score, but I think that may be a bit of a inflation due to the changes made by STAR 2.0, but still a positive result. And similarly with the subgroups in the biology district benchmark, gains, and then all in all, generally positive. In order to support teachers throughout this year and just in general from the central office, we provided planning support during professional learning communities or PLCs, support with interventions and providing or supporting teachers in getting review supplies, and one-on-one instructional coaching through our instructional coach support, and incorporation of the new STAR item types in all district assessments, both unit assessments and benchmark assessments, going back, I believe, 1.5 years. So students have been practicing with these item types for quite a while now. And with that, I will hand it over to my colleague in social studies.
Good evening. My name is Rubina Pantoja, and I'm the social studies coordinator. So the beginning slides go over data that we shared last summer, where we established our goals, and the goal is to increase our performance by approximately 4%. So this particular slide is something that you've seen before, and our goal for each level is approaches 57, meets 28, masters 13. With an overall goal of 32.8 to achieve a grade of C. And this is for high school U.S. history. Our goal is 93.4 for approaches, 50.6 for meets, 25.1 for masters, and overall average of 59%, again, to maintain our A grade. So we're going to measure using curriculum-based assessments and district benchmark data. So if you look at the very top, and I know you received this information prior to this meeting, I'll just go over the district data. So we achieved 46.6% at approaches, 19.8% at meets, 8% at masters, for an overall average of 24.8. And on the right-hand side of the slide, you'll see what our goals were. And so we still have a lot of work to do. And I know one of the board questions that was sent to us a week ago or so, there was a question about kind of the discrepancy in the scores. And I will say that the 8th grade STAR is challenging because part of it is when we have text that is, I guess, archaic. It's very different than plain English that the kids would see in high school U.S. history. And then we have the breakdown by campus. And again, lots of work to be done there, but definitely students are working very hard as well as teachers. This is our subgroups of emergent bilinguals in our special education populations. Overall, our emergent bilinguals achieved 20.9%. Our special education students achieved 11%. And then this is our high school U.S. history data. So again, looking at the district data, approaches reaching 87.5%. Meets being 65.1%, masters being 27.9% for an overall average of 60.2%. So actually exceeding our goal, if you look on the right-hand side again of that slide, where our overall goal was 59.0%. And then subgroups again for high school U.S. history, we have emergent bilinguals achieving 47.2%, our special education students achieving 40.9%. Lots of work to be done there, but I will tell you that, based on previous year's data, our kids are growing in these particular subgroups. So support specific to social studies. One is, support during our professional learning communities or our POCs. So from 6th grade on, and actually even at the elementary level, supporting our teachers in that way, in that manner. Purchases of resources for intervention specifically. So a lot of our teachers do hold intervention sessions prior to STAR. So I have purchased resources for them specifically for the interventions. And then support during individual campus interventions. So for example, Leal Middle School, they host a lock-in several times in the spring. And so the district staff have gone to the campus and supported the Leal Middle School specifically for their after-hour sessions or interventions. Individual teacher support. So we're still maintaining our secondary instructional coaching model. And so we have individual teacher support in grades 8 and high school U.S. history, but also in all the other content areas from elementary through senior level. And then finally, incorporation of the new STAR item types. We have been incorporating the new item types since its inception. And I also included in all of the non-tested grades. So from 3rd grade all the way through 7th grade, which are the non-tested social studies grades, the students see those types of questions. So that way 8th grade is not a big shock for them. Now we have David Castro, math coordinator.
Good evening. I'm David Castro. I'd like to share what I think is good news today. Our math growth goal for all subjects and grade levels for secondary is 5%. I did break them down by middle school and high school because I'm looking for different folks starting in different places. But essentially what this slide shows us is that I'd like to see our middle schools grow from 30.1% to 35.1%. Remember, that is the average of approaches, meets, and masters. So to get that up, we have to really see our meets and masters improve. For middle school algebra, the goal is to go from 34.7 to 39.7 because those students started at a higher level, so we want them to grow more. For high school algebra, 5% again, the average growing from 34.7 to 39.7. So if we're able to achieve that, In middle school, we would have a C rating this year. And that kind of shows you what the approaches, meets and matches would need to be for that to occur. And as I sort of emphasized, we really have to get those masters up. And I think you'll see we're moving in that direction very positively. Similarly, for high school, if we can meet these approaches, meets and masters goals, we can get it to a B academically, which would be very exciting this year. So to mark our progress towards that, we're going to be looking at the unit assessments that were given every 6 weeks. That data is shown here. So what we're seeing in the left-hand column is we had 74.6% of students get approaches on our 6 weeks assessments, which is well ahead of the 66.3% goal. But what I'm really pleased with is having a significant exceeding of our goal in both meets and masters, and in masters having almost 17% growth of where we expected to be. This is the breakdown by middle school campus. I'll leave that up there for a few seconds for you guys to see. This is good news, but I also have a word of caution. These were unit assessments essentially, and we gave a February benchmark, which was last year's released assessment, the whole test. And we found that kids mastered the individual units quite well. They had some trouble integrating. And so we spent the whole spring working on spiraling back to first semester, integrating concepts and making sure that our students are taking those individual concepts they mastered, integrating them into a whole. So that's kind of been our focus. And for high school, it's going to be the same thing. But as we look at these middle school assessments, I'm very happy where these are lying. In all cases, I think their growth is very positive. For high school, our goals are 71.8% approaches, 32.4% meet, and 15% masters. And we have some work to do in this area. As I said, we identified that students are having trouble making some connections. And I've met with both high schools, and we've had an extensive plan in place since February to address those concerns. And even with that, I still think we have, we're in a good position to keep growing and to help our students achieve our goals. So to get there, first we have the unit assessments, which are all in New Star format. That's something I've been tracking. We also have a daily pacing guide where teachers have information on, this is what we recommend to teach on Monday. This is what it looks like. Here's some resources. Something that's new for this year is we're really emphasizing student productive struggle and academic discourse. And because what we're seeing happening since the pandemic is our teachers are working really, really, really hard. And in some cases, our students are stepping back a little bit because they're not engaging as much as we'd like them to do in the hard work of mathematics. And so we're really pushing this year on students struggling with math in a productive way. And that will continue to be our emphasis this summer and next year as well. Also providing direct teacher support, using that data to use my time effectively in supporting teachers that are most needed that support and helping tailor that support for them. I've also worked with several of our campus leaders based on the data so that they know what I'm focusing on, and we're working together to provide that support. We've also started doing model lessons that incorporate these productive struggle strategies. We'll begin doing that more this summer. And what I'm excited about for next year is we have a district planning day coupled with a campus planning day, and we'll be writing those model lessons during those district planning days. So we'll be able to collaborate on those key things across the district. And finally, as I was sharing, developing intervention plans and review plans based on the benchmark data, which are all in place now. So thank you for your time. I'll hand it over to my colleague, Mr. Pozos.
Good evening, members of the board. Before I present my data, I'd just like to say that the work that we did couldn't be done without the support of Ms. Casey and Mr. Littlefield, as well as the principals and administrators on campus. We really look to them as vital contributors and really making sure that we can make this work happen with teachers and ultimately reaching the students to benefit them. So we just want to make sure we take time to acknowledge all of that cooperation that we had. I did submit, along with the board questions, a correction to my data, and I'll point it out as we get to those slides, but I just want to make sure that when I get there with all the numbers that we're seeing, that it'll stand out, is what I'm saying. You'll notice. So when we met in the fall, Reading Language Arts did share a combined goal for 6th through 8th grade, as well as the EOCs, to reach a 3.5% growth across all performance levels. And we've been working really diligently to meet that goal, especially at the middle school level. And I think we should see some of that play out in the data. This was the slide we shared at the beginning of the year. This year, the school year, with that 3.5% performance level goal represented in that gold column at the end. We know from the changeover to that new STAR test, there was a significant decrease in scores across the state. And we were just one of the many school districts desperately trying to kind of figure out what we could do to fix that problem and address those concerns. High school, we did not see a decrease. We saw an increase primarily due to the lowering of the performance level thresholds. So I think as we see our STAR data manifest this year in the spring, we shouldn't see this big jump again of another 10%, but we should see at least a steady growth from year to year after this if those performance levels maintain themselves. One of the ways in which we'll see in the slides to come that we specifically tracked this goal was through the extended constructive response data. So in the new STAR 2.0, one of the new question types is what's considered a text-based response. It's the essay question, but to make it fair and equal for all students, they make them respond to a piece of text with a text-dependent question. So that became a vital part of our students' success and that we try to address in a couple of different areas. So we'll address that after we look at the overall district benchmark data. So what you're seeing on this slide is our district benchmark performance from last year compared to this year for grades 6 through 8, as well as the growth from STAR 2023 to the 2024 district benchmark. Our benchmark was given in the first week of March. And so our students took a full STAR test across all tested grades, 6th through 10th grade. And the performance levels matched that of STAR, as well as the number of questions and the types of questions. So it was as accurate a representation of what they would see on the STAR as possible. The one variable being that instead of TEA scoring that extended constructive response, which is about 18% of the student's success in the test, our teachers are scoring that. So we also worked really hard to calibrate their scoring before we reach this point. So we'll talk about that also as we get across. You can see for 6th through 8th grade, our approaches level stayed about the same. However, our meets and masters, we definitely saw a shift in our students' performance. And that's definitely due to the hard work of those students and the diligent focus of teachers to address that integrated reading and writing component that is kind of the foundation of all of our English work. And we did see a boost in our overall percentage from 35.8% to 37.4%. I anticipate with some of the interventions that have happened since the district benchmark that we should see an increase in those scores as we move towards the STAR and we get that data back at the end of the year. For our English 1 and 2 EOCs, we did not see a significant jump in the scores from 2023 STAR to our district benchmark. However, when you look at the district benchmark scores from 2023 to the STAR from 2023, you can see that there is a significant increase. And they did raise the thresholds, but traditionally you do see in high school greater focus of students on the test day. They're much more aware of what days really count. And then they really show up for those days. So I'm going to stand by the scores that show up at the end of the year for my high school folks. And being a high school English teacher for 18 years, I can probably speak to that. That's exactly what happens. When we see the breakdown across middle school, we can see that traditionally KMS is our highest performing school. And that's been the case year after year. And then we see a slow kind of shift and a ranking out of all the middle schools. And I think what you're seeing now, if you look at the overall averages for our traditional middle schools, is a fairly consistent performance across the board. And so that is really a result of our kind of targeted intervention and our support through some strategic kind of professional development with teachers to really kind of level the playing field and get everybody on the same page in terms of instruction for students. So this is the slide. If you look at our master's score for special education, that should not read 27.8. It should read 1.4% masters. That's, you put an English teacher in charge of numbers, we're going to have problems. And that leaves the overall at 15%. So just as a slight correction. And traditionally, our emerging bilinguals and special education students have been one of the most difficult populations to serve in terms of reading English language arts, just because of the demands on writing and reading that are placed on those students. We'll talk about special support we provided for them as we continue. And then again, in this particular slide, I would like to also address in masters, it was the same error, I apologize. For McCollum High School, it should not read 29.4% for masters, it should read 1.2%, which does shift the overall for McCollum to 34.4 and the overall for the district to 34.2, which does match up with the other slides. When you look at the master's level between our traditional high schools for the district benchmark, they were fairly comparable at 1.2%. That should increase by the time we get to the actual star. And when you look at the meets, you do see McCollum slightly ahead of Harlandale, both in meets and approaches, with early college high school performing fairly well across the board with their population. And then as we move to our emerging bilingual and special education students, when you look at middle school success versus high school success, you see a decline in the numbers when it comes to overall student success. And that is, I think, directly related to the rigor of the test. The test increases in difficulty in reading level, and our students are not increasing in reading level at a fast enough pace in those special populations, and in both emerging bilingual and special education. This gives back to our progress measure. This is our extended constructed response tracking data sheet right here in this slide. And just to give you some context, our extended constructed response, which is our essay, it's scored by TEA on a scale of 0 to 5. And just to put it a frame in your head, the 5 points isn't 0 is the worst and 5 is the best. They get graded 3 points for their ideas and 2 points for conventions. So like, are they spelling things correctly? Are they punctuating? Are they capitalizing? Imagine if they graded us for our conventions. It'd be difficult. And so we definitely worked with teachers to calibrate that scoring because it is different from their scoring in the past. And so we've taught them how to score that 3 points for ideas and the 2 points for conventions. And when you look at a 0, if a kid's getting a 0, that means that they could not even respond to the question. They couldn't formulate an answer from reading the text and reading the question to even get one sentence down that could accurately convey an idea that was correct about the text. Students that scored a 1 got an idea out, but they had no conventions. They weren't punctuating, they weren't capitalizing, and they weren't spelling at a level to which their grade level says they should. And so when you look at kids that get 0s, those are kids that just didn't score high in any regard. And when we compared the data for individual students who got 0s, and we looked at their overall score, almost every one of those students who got a 0 did not pass the star. It was a direct correlation between the score of 0 and their passing on the STAR test. So really, if we could get those kids to do anything but a 0, even a 1, just one good sentence, they stood a chance of passing the test. So that became like our charging kind of statement about moving forward and really pushing. And it gave teachers something very concrete and specific to work for, even though like there's a lot of skills that go into getting a kid to read a text effectively and write a really correct answer. Foundationally, it gave them a clear target to shoot for. And so as you look at our STAR data from STAR 2023 to our district benchmark, we see relatively 6th through 8th grade, the same number of 0s. Okay. Those are our kids who they weren't doing so well last year, and maybe they're still in the same group. We've addressed that through some things we'll talk about in a second. But when we look at the number of kids who got 1s, you see a 12% decrease in the number of kids who got 1s from last year to the number of kids this year. And so those kids are now have a chance of passing the test. So those kids we should see a bump in numbers for those kids. When we look at our meets and masters numbers, traditionally, when we looked at the data, again, correlating what the kid got on the extended constructive response to their overall performance level, kids who got 3s, they got meets. In middle school, kids who got 4 and 5, they got masters. And it happened so much that the data could be, you could follow the trend, in your correlation data chart and really see that relationship for each individual student. And so when we look at the 3s, the kids who are getting meets, we moved from 10% to 16%. So we should see, again, in the STAR data, a shift in those kids from approaches to meets. And when we look at our masters, especially at middle school, again, we see a shift from an overall 4 and 5 score, which is 12%, to an overall 4 and 5 score of 18%. So we should definitely see a lot of those numbers move, and we should see a lot of our overall performance move as well for those middle school students. So hats off to those teachers for working really hard with those kids. When we look at our high school data, again, high school, when we look at the same breakdown for students, we can see in the unit assessments, we can see a shift in those zeros when they hit the district benchmark. We don't see that data as clearly reflected as we did in the middle school data. And I kind of just have to wait for the STAR to come out to really see how all that work has played out with those high school classes. When we're talking about specific support, it was detailed and extensive in the work we did. One of the first things that we had to do with teachers was provide them with additional resources that really met the needs of what the STAR was asking of them. It's specifically related to that extended constructive response. So we looked at a number of different curriculums and we purchased ThinkCirca, and y'all approved that. Thank you so much. And with the support of Ms. Casey's additional funds, we were able to purchase licenses for 6th through 12th grade for a discount of $80,000. And that it was a big test to see if it would really pay off. And we've seen in places where students and teachers have used it with fidelity, we've seen an increase in those overall writing scores and overall performance levels for students. And it does nothing else than provide rigorous texts with a strong literacy framework for them. So we definitely provided that across all tested grades. Then the other thing that we did was put a really strict focus on the extended constructive response in STAR, which meant we were calibrating scoring for all of our teachers, not only for the district benchmark that I sit in on scoring with specific middle schools, my instructional coach did as well. And we also opened up through a Google form where teachers could submit extended constructive responses that they kind of were questioning what the score was, and we could provide them with objective calibrated scoring with feedback to really help align their scoring. And we did that through all of our unit assessments. And so by the time they hit the district benchmark, I felt really confident that we could count on the scores that we were getting from our teachers. They were scoring as accurately as they could to what TA expected on that extended constructive response. We also supported that during our PLC. We went in after unit assessments and district benchmarks and offered some strategic support on how to lift those scores up. So for example, getting kids to just focus on punctuating and capitalizing, that gets you a whole nother point. That moves you from a 1 to a 2. Now you're guaranteed to get approaches. And it was easy for teachers to see that and focus in on those elements, which translates into a bunch of other things like revising and editing and focusing in on how effective the student has to be at conveying their message in the writing. And then through our instructional planning, we provided resources for teachers in terms of how to build extended constructive response questions based on a variety of different texts that were aligned to individual units in our curriculum for those units. So, and specific TEKS, I should say. To specifically address our emerging bilingual and special education students, we brought in an outside presenter and author from Building Better Writers. And so they provided a day-long instructional support for teachers to just offer them strategies to reach those specific populations and provided them with a text, a workbook basically that they could use as teachers to implement those strategies with some of their special populations as well. In addition to that, we really focused on providing strategic instructional coaching. So I have one instructional coach, and I placed him specifically with the middle school teachers who on paper look great. You know, certified teachers, experienced teachers, they're doing all the things that you would want a great teacher to do in the classroom. But when you look at their data compared to their counterparts, you see them not succeeding as well. So I kind of tasked him with working with those teachers to figure out what was going on. And basically we found out they were teaching too low. They were trying to help every single kid, and they were not pushing them hard enough and high enough to meet those thresholds. So we were able to kind of target those teachers and work with them throughout the year to see results. And so we should definitely see that at middle school, at Harlandale Middle and Terra Wells specifically. And then also I put him in PLCs to work with teachers. We have had difficulty across the district in filling all of our English teacher spots. And so we have long-term subs. We have teachers covering other courses. And so having him there as a resource has been vital to those campuses' success. Again, with middle schools, this is our third year of multi-classroom leaders and our last year. And we have 3 left, and they exceed my expectations of supporting teachers and serving as a campus support to implement the things that we're trying to do as a district. And we definitely have worked with them doing observational rounds at the individual campuses to share success, focus in on 2 specific research-based strategies from TEA, text complexity and text-based responses. We've also kind of brought them together to lead goal setting for pushing those kids to meets and masters and not just approaches. And then they've really been vital to build cross-campus collaboration. So not only have our principals really worked together at the middle school level, but the MCLs have really brought teachers together, especially on those planning days, bringing teachers together to collaborate and to score and to learn from each other in terms of experience. So it has been a really positive experience in ELAR to have our MCLs with us. We specifically addressed text complexity throughout the district. One of the things that TEA has stated is that students have to be exposed to on-level rigorous text in their Tier 1 instruction if they're expected to be successful at the STAR test, which is testing them on level with rigorous texts in these skills. We can't teach them below grade level, even if we're teaching them the skills. And so that became another one of those foundational minimum thresholds where we went into PLCs and we basically said, this is the level at which you have to address students when it comes to rigor. And then we could point them to our resources that we purchased as a way to fill that need. And we can say that consistently across our tested grades that teachers are now using on-level rigorous texts, where before we definitely had some variation in that regard. And then as far as our overall district support, not specific to campuses, much like my peers, we developed our professional learning communities with principals and academic deans. So we brought our principals together and we basically said, you are a PLC. And we asked them what they wanted to focus on in terms of their campus's growth, in terms of these RBs, our research-based instructional strategies. They focused on text complexity and text-based responses in the first cycle for middle school and high school, and then text-based responses for middle school and student discourse and productive struggle for high school. And it really allowed those campus leaders to serve as the leading force in what needed to change on their campus. They could dialogue with each other. We did instructional rounds that led them forth in that area as well. That concludes our data presentation. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to address them and field them at this time. Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys. Are there any comments, concerns, or clarification needed on any of these items?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ms. Cavazos.
Mr. Hernandez, if I may address Ms. Casey. Ms. Casey, what if you know the students you all are noticing that are stepping back and not being as engaged? Are we noticing that that is the middle school level, or is it the high school level, or is it a combination of both?
I'm glad you brought up that question because as I was listening to everybody, we have the data and we have the academic piece that we can definitely address. But when you look at secondary students, these are students who have failed that test multiple times. They could be in 7th grade and they failed that test 4 or 5 times. And when they sit for that test, what are they saying? What is their self-talk? I'm just going to fail again. So there's that whole other piece of work that we have to address with this group. I would say that happens, it begins even as early as 5th grade. So definitely in middle school. In high school, I think the advantage for high school is there is the incentive that you pass to graduate. So there at least is that component for high school kids. They're a little more mature. I think it happens at both levels, but I think, I don't think it happens more than in one or the other. But it is a big component of our challenge that we're seeing with our students. And another thing while we were in this, so the students that are 10th grade now, so they're taking our exit biology, EOC, or US history, they were in 5th grade with COVID. And as much as we don't want to blame COVID, that's a reality. During their most formative years, when they're looking at turning to more academic reading, students were going, this is a cohort that was doing that. And so those are definitely our challenges. It happens, I would say, equally, and it's really student dependent. And of course, what every student is dealing with. We have multiple issues, and it's not just the academic piece, but this is the piece that we can focus on, and that's a piece kind of we work with as best we can.
Thank you, Ms. Casey. And if I may ask, my second question, and you sort of already answered it, is although we are doing a lot, and thank you, everybody from your department to everybody else that's putting their effort and diligence in getting these children to be successful as they can be and as they should be. And it may not be a question that you can answer now. If you can email me, I would greatly appreciate it. That got me thinking earlier when we were talking about kids, disengaging and just stepping back. Not all students are good testers. Not all adults. We're not all good testers. So on top of what you are doing to implement these strategies and these foundations for the teachers so that they can then implement them and lay that foundation for the students, are we and what are we doing to also set a foundation for those children that are not good test takers? Because like you said, there's a lot of things that come with children sometimes not being successful that is out of the school environment element. And again, you don't need to answer it, but if you can just send an email, I'm just curious as to what we can do to support that aspect as well, we as a board. I would truly appreciate that. And those are my questions right now, but I'll email if I have any more. But thank you so much for everything.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Mancha.
Mr. Hernandez, if I may, sir. First of all, I want to thank you. That was the most well-explained thing that I have ever seen. I've been on the board for 12 years. I've been on that side for 20-something years. A parent would have been able to understand that I need to teach my kid when to put a dot, when to make it a capital. I never knew that. And how it changes from one level to the next. So thank you, Ms. Casey, Mr. Littlefield. Awesome. So now, what do? We always have everybody else come and ask for this, we need that. We need more Wi-Fi, we need more. I want to know what you guys want. Because I know that we have classrooms that you're going to have to work harder because we have a full-time sub. We have classrooms where we need to educate that sub on how to find those times that it's got to be an exclamation point, a capital, a dot, because they're subs. Some of them are, they're great subs, but we also need to educate them to be able to educate our kids. So how can we support the rest of the group?
Thank you, Mr. Mancha. I can say that in the board questions response, we did provide detailed list of things that we could do to address some of the needs for support that we have. I can say that just in terms of my counterparts, we're all very invested in the district and we're all aware of the challenges that we're facing, but we definitely want to make sure that our kids are receiving the best education possible. And we're definitely willing to provide that support in whatever form that it looks like. So thank you.
All right, any other comments, concerns, clarification needed on any of the information provided?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Luna?
What action are we taking on this? Just a presentation, right? So I'm only ready a response and then therefore it's just your presentation. Being an educator myself, never being an administrator. I know you could tell you, raise your hand, administrators here. There's more administrators and teachers that I could understand what you're presenting more than the other administrators. Like I said, I've never been an administrator. And I was gonna question, why didn't you update your data? That's a thing on your presentation part. But your heart shows.
English teachers are in the process of editing, so we try to stick.
I understand that, but it's, thank you for your presentation. I really appreciate that because we're supposed to really just judge the process here, not the data, the results. Because I don't really understand. I haven't been a star grade since 2013. But I've been a teacher since 1989, and it's still the same stuff. Facts and opinions, graphs, I mean, it's the same stuff that we need to teach our kids. And now with COVID, it's a whole different situation. But we need to learn to adjust for our kids. And it's your job. And your job to motivate our teachers to do better, to make our kids better. But I really appreciate your presentation. Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments, concerns, or clarification needed from any of our presenters? No? All right, well, thank you guys for providing that information and thank you for also adhering or acknowledging the questions that we provided beforehand and embedding it within the presentation to provide us a thorough and meticulous and clear and concise understanding of the processes for all our grade levels and content subject areas. So thank y'all again for providing that information for us and presenting it as well. So kudos to you guys and Ms. Casey and Mr. Littlefield. Thank y'all. Okay, as we continue on, we're moving on to item B and C. I guess we could put that together, Dr. Hinojosa, Mr. Nazarbe, all right? It will be the board will review and discuss the intruder detection audit findings for March 2024 as required by TA, and then also C, the board will be presented the school safety audit for February 2024. Dr. Hinojosa, please.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, yes, sir. Thank you. That's one of the, what I was going to ask if we could combine the two, and I'm going to have Chief Hernandez go over both of the items. Some of it is a little information from last month, and then some will be for the information that we need for this coming month. But Chief Hernandez will be actually presenting the information.
Thank you, Dr. Hinojosa. Chief, whenever you're ready, sir.
Yes, sir. Good evening, cabinet, board members. So the board will review and discuss the intruder audit, detective audit findings for March. We discussed this last month. We have to put this in the board agenda. Just to let you know, we submitted all the paperwork and all corrections were submitted and it's been approved. So we're good on that one. We did have audits this month. I want to congratulate Kingsborough Middle School. They had 0 findings. Good job. And we had Collier Elementary also with 0 findings. Good job. So overall for the district, we are 19 out of 20 for audits, and that gives us a 95%. So congratulations to the district. And that's all I have. You have any questions?
All right, any comments, concerns, clarification needed on any of these two items? No, thank you, Chief. I appreciate it.
Have a good one.
All right, great. Moving on to item D, which is the board will be presented the RVK McCollum entrance visiting results. Mr. Hernandez, do I present that over to Dr. Hinojosa still?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
All right, Dr. Hinojosa, please.
All right, good evening again, sir, and thank you very much for the opportunity on this one. So this particular item for our information, back in January of 2024, RVK, the Board of Trustees approved RVK architects to work on the elevation for McCollum High School. And so it's a series of meetings that we're going to have. Tonight, we do have RVK that will present some information from that initial meeting that we had last month. Again, it's the first of a series of meetings that we'll have. So tonight, you'll be presented with the information from that particular item, which is a general discussion of the project. But with that said, I'll turn it over to Heath, and he will present that information from that meeting.
Thank you, sir. Welcome back, Heath.
All
See
right.
you.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. So as Dr. Hinojosa said, March 13th, we met at central office. There was about 12 community members there. And so we are going to work them through a visioning session. And basically, it's a process that we've been doing for several years to bring input from members of the community and help kind of build consensus for the design. And we do that through kind of associating words, vocabulary with aesthetic photographs, so that when somebody says that they want the entrance to be welcoming, we now have an associated image that goes with that. Let's see. Whoops. Okay. Maybe I should use, there you go. All right. I'm not going to go into like all the detail on this image, but basically the upper right is a scan of the board that was used at the presentation. And so you can see there's green, red, and yellow dots on that, and some hand markings. And so that is all the feedback that we received from the community members at that meeting. On the left-hand side, we've got the green positive feedback, the red negative feedback. And so those are their actual words that they used in describing those elements. And then the imagery across the bottom is just kind of the most discussed images that we talked about. And so we kind of broke it down into three categories. We talked about a building canopy, a plaza, and then the lobby itself. And so we did this for each of those. So this is the feedback for the canopy. And so from that, what we kind of took from that is we've got the top three images are the images that kind of, again, were like most discussed, referenced as being welcoming. And so the word usage was, looking for durable, low maintenance, well lit. Were frequently brought up throughout the workshop to describe the canopy. And so those images represented that. Then the three images below it illustrate kind of the various material palettes. And so, it was a good balance of solid, durable materials, metal, lighting, providing, visual interest and adequate lighting for protection. And so then the next one was kind of that site plaza. And so again, same format here. The scan board on the right is from that. We've summarized the positive feedback. What we call the negative feedback is just the aspects of the imagery that they did not like, or things that they wanted to improve upon. And then the most liked images along the bottom. And so when we were talking about the site plaza, the words that were used were open, low maintenance, accessible, and then the aesthetic material along the bottom, a good balance of concrete, hardscape and green space that provide visual interest, create accessible site, and promote interaction between student and faculty. And then the last kind of element we talked about was the entry/lobby. And so as we get to kind of the summary for that, the words used, open, low maintenance, warm, were frequently brought up throughout that. And then again, from the aesthetics and material palette, a good balance of wood on the ceiling to bring in warmth, metal, concrete, and tile to provide visual interest and create a welcoming atmosphere for students and faculty. So with that, we are now taking this information and we are going to go to the second community meeting, which is going to be in a couple weeks here. It was going to be next week, but with Fiesta and schedules, we're moving that one additional week. But at that meeting, excuse me, we're going to present multiple options, conceptual options that take a lot of this information. We'll put it back in front of the community. We'll gather their feedback from that to make any kind of adjustments that we need to. But we're going to be developing multiple options simultaneously. After the April 30th community meeting, we'll come back to the board. We'll present the findings from that conceptual meeting. We will then go back for a third community meeting, which again, multiple options, but these will be more like final renderings at that point, final concepts. And then we will bring those two options at a minimum back to the board to present. And then ultimately, get feedback from, administration and staff for kind of ultimate direction to go forward with.
All right. Any comments, concerns, or clarifications needed for Heath? No? All right. Well, thank you for walking us through the first phase, sir. And I guess we'll continue on and look forward to the next details.
Thank you all very much.
All right. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
So moving on to consent. Items 6A through 6P. Do we have a motion to approve the consent
Mr.
items?
Chair,
Yes, Ms. Cavazos?
I move to approve consent items A through P.
We have a motion to accept items or approve items A through P. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chair, I'll second that motion.
All right, a second by Ms. Reese. We'll go ahead. I don't think we need any discussion on this piece. We're gonna go ahead and call for the vote on these items, approving items consent items A through P, please. Voting's open. We can go ahead and close the vote. All right, motion's approved, motion's carried. Moving on to item 7, convene in closed session is authorized by Texas Government Code for items 7A, 7B, and 7C, and D and E. Do we have a motion to convene in closed session?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ms. Cavazos?
I move to convene in closed session as authorized by the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, Sections 551.071 through 551.084 for agenda items 7A, B, C, D, and E.
All right, do we have a second?
Mr. Chair, second.
Second by Mr. Luna. We'll go ahead and call for the vote. I don't think any discussion is needed. We'll go ahead and have that item open. Voting is now open. We can close the vote, please. All right, motion carries. We are now convening in closed session. It is 7:32. All right, good evening, everyone. Well, we're back. It is now 8:16. We're in open session. We're going through 7A, no action needed. Item B, 7B, no action needed. I believe now action C. Do we have a motion to approve? That's correct, right, Dr. Salinas? All right, do we have a motion by someone?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ms. Ortiz.
I move that the board accept the recommendations of Superintendent Soto on the 2024-2025 school year administrator professional probationary contracts, administrator professional term contracts, and administrator professional non-certified contracts under TGC 551.074.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Ortiz. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chair, I second that motion.
All right, second by Ms. Reese. We're gonna go ahead and go to the vote. I don't believe any discussion is needed. Voting is now open. All right, we can close the vote, please. All right, motion carries. Congratulations to those that are returning and all those that are coming back at the teacher contract as well. Moving on to 7D, I don't believe any action is needed, right? Also 7E, no action needed. We're gonna go ahead and move on to adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chair, I move to adjourn.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn by Ms. Reese. Do we have a
Mr. Luna,
second?
second.
All right, a second by Mr. Luna. All right, anything to say before we leave?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I tell my fellow colleagues on the way out here on the left, you can see our pictures. They did a very fantastic job. Fiesta Flam to put us in the fiesta spirit over here. So go look at your portrait over there.
It's like a reflection, certainly.
Great looking bunch over there.
All right, we'll go ahead and call for the vote to adjourn. All right, don't forget to vote, y'all.
Louis, are you gonna vote or not?
All right, we can close the vote, please. All right, motion carries. It is now